Were you full-time as in the office pre-COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was fully in the office, and then, so it was a dramatic shift. And at first it was fun. Like it was like new and
Because there's novelty to it.
right. Yeah, exactly. And then it got old really fast. And then I was just like I was just very sick of it. It was taking a big toll on my mental health. Just like the isolation, lack of community. And so like opening a business, I felt opening a community facing business was really kind of the counter to that. So that's why they feel like polar opposites, because like that was kind of the goal.
Before we get started, I have a small favor to ask from you. Currently, 85% of our viewers are not subscribed. My goal is 50%. So if you've ever liked any of the videos we've posted, if you like this channel, can you do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button? It helps this channel more than you know. And the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get, and the more exceptional the properties get. Thank you and enjoy this episode. I'm 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗣𝗡𝗥𝗑𝗗, and I love Chicago real estate. Between showings, I stop in my favorite places, talk with local business owners, and bring their story to you. This is my Chicago.
How do you leave software engineering bookstore? It seems to me the polar opposite worlds.
Right. Software engineering is especially so in the age of COVID, software engineering became very isolating. It
seems already isolating.
It's a little isolating just to start, but at least when I was in the office, it was like there was community. And so it was all like, I was on a team, but it was all like you're a team, like your workspace is a team, you're working together for like some common goal. With the rise of remote work, that office culture has just kind of dissipated.
Yeah.
So it was easy to, it was just really hard for me to like work from home and just like feel this like very transactional work environment. Because it had just become like you do the work and then that's it. Like there was no like
no camaraderie, no community.
Exactly.
You're not meeting with anyone. Were you full-time as in the office pre-COVID?
Yeah. So it was fully in the office, and then so it was a dramatic shift. And at first it was fun. Like it was like new and
because there's novelty to it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then it got old really fast. And then I was just like very sick of it. It was taking a big toll on my mental health. Just like the isolation, lack of community. And so like opening a business, I felt opening a community facing business was really kind of the counter to that. So that's why they feel like polar opposites, because like that was kind of the goal.
That's what you needed.
Yeah, exactly. Was to like make it an opposite of what I was doing before. So
that's funny because these interviews came about the same way.
Really?
Yeah, they came about because of COVID, and I saw these companies struggling and they didn't have an outlet. You see your favorite places going down, and we were doing this for properties. And I was like, how much harder is it to do it for this? Well, it is a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But it's more different than we thought. But we set it up, we started doing it. And even today, it's like some people are like, why do you do it? I'm like, there's a lot of different reasons. But I also like this community benefit of meeting someone in your neighborhood that you would have no opportunity otherwise to sit down with for an hour.
Right.
Learn about your business. Because now, if someone asks me for a bookstore, what's going to come to my mind, right? It doesn't matter what neighborhood I'm in, I'm going to say this one.
Yeah.
Right. And there's something to that. And so if you can do that for all these different things, now when someone's like, if someone asks for these particular recommendations, I have these places because I know the owner,
right?
And I'm closer with the owner, and I feel this kinship of supporting their business,
no
matter what that means.
Yeah, I love that.
What made you want to do a bookstore,
though? It was definitely the attainability of like opening a bookstore. I think part of it was like I wanted to do like a family business, so I wanted it to be like obtainable with just like a small group of staff. So right now it's just me and Jordan, and then we have Sal who helps out, and then we have Rosie who works for us.
Basically like a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
That's us. It's Adam and me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like making it like really small and really tight knit. And then, just kind of like being able to do it was really the draw. And also, I mean, I love books. Like that's like where it comes from as well, is that I love reading. I love sharing. I love talking about books with other people. I love the excitement that I see when a customer comes in and they just read a good book and they want to tell me about it.
Okay.
Like I love that experience. And so like getting a lot of these, like all of these like positive experiences out of it was really what I was going for.
What made you an avid reader?
That's an interesting question. I read a lot when I was a kid. I think my parents really kind of pushed for that. And then my reading kind of died. I stopped reading when I was in school.
Yeah. I feel like most people hit that, right?
Yeah.
When you become old enough to determine that reading's for nerds or that there's a TV and that's a little more fun or whatever it is,
Yeah.
you pull away.
Yes.
And then I've been in a book club for a few years now, and it's like there's some part of my life where I was like, I'm really drawn more into reading.
Yeah.
And I don't know why or when that happened exactly, but there's a complete ebb and flow to the process.
Yeah. And I don't know for sure that everybody goes through that same cycle, but like for me, it was very much like college came around, there was other things to do.
Yeah.
There was partying to be done, whatever else. Yeah. But yeah, reading just like faded into the background for me. And then it was kind of missing for a little bit. In like my young professional years. And then I started reading on the train. And so that's kind of how I really got back into it.
So you just jump on the Brown line and head downtown?
Yep, exactly. Yep. Take it down to the office. And so I was like every morning, it was like a great way to just like be present. It's like a really mindful activity reading. So I think that's one thing that we kind of like lose a lot in I don't know, the age of technology.
In the modern world.
Yeah. Like you're on your phone, you're scrolling on whatever app.
If we are reading, they're bits and pieces.
Right.
They're bite size.
Yeah.
And I also think that messes with our brain.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I had a harder time sitting down reading a book for an hour because I hadn't done that in years.
Right.
I really hadn't.
Yeah.
And if I was reading, it was like before I went to bed and I'd fall asleep and I'd get a few pages. But then I'd be like, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to take my phone and leave it in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to leave it in another part of their house. And then I'm going to walk to another room.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get this physical book
Yeah.
that I can touch and feel and highlight and dog ear and bend. And I'm going to sit here. And then I had to look up a word.
Yeah. Oh.
How, when you approach this business, it's interesting. How old are you?
I am 29.
You're 29. I'm 36.
Yeah.
You have a 2-year-old. I have a 5-month-year-old. I just opened that office. You just opened this space.
Yeah.
Does it make you nervous?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's still terrifying. Like we're in our infancy still. Like we're 6 months old. And business is good, but business isn't like crazy good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like, oh, I just did this and now I'm like uber successful.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm still like going through the growing pains of having like effectively a startup. Like we're doing customer acquisition still, like new people come into the shop all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like building that like customer base and then like, and also, another big part of this equation is when we opened, we thought we were full. So we thought we started with like the inventory amount that we would like have moving forward.
Yeah.
We've put in like thousands of dollars into like new inventory.
How does that?
We had.
Sorry, keep going.
Oh, we just have so much more room to fill. Like it was not
space.
obvious. Yeah. How much like extra space we had available to us.
As soon as my office was done, I was like, should have done this differently. Like, I love my office, but there's like these little things, right?
Yeah.
How does that work in terms of the inventory? Do you pay for that advance? Is it given you on a consignment?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not consignment. It is paid for in advance. You can do like net terms. So like net 30, net 60, net 90 terms. So meaning you don't pay till those are, elapsed, that time elapses.
Do they have interest?
They do not.
They do
No.
not, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we right now we're paying it all up front, and we pay the wholesale price and then we sell it for just the mark price on the back of the book.
When you were setting up this shop and looking for locations, I like your reasoning with the different breakfast spots, people walking by, and there's such a busy intersection. Mm-hmm. When people have come into this store, what kind of feedback have they given you so far?
A lot of very positive feedback. So we get a lot of like, oh, it's so cute. It's like a very common thing that people say when they walk in.
It's scramble.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, exactly. But there's just been a lot of positive feedback. And people really like the vibe. There's this what I would consider antiquated concept that like bookstores need to just maximize the number of books that they have in the store. So if you'll notice when you look around our store, like it's very open.
It's also curated.
It is very curated.
That's what I noticed when I came in here for the first time. I liked your suggestions. I liked the sections that were typical but not at the same time.
Yeah.
And I felt like there were good recommendations in the front to see, okay, if you're interested in this category, here's what's here. How do you decide what goes on the shelves?
That's a great question.
That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like
That would keep me up at night.
it's the hardest part of the job for sure. I do have a funny story on that. I haven't mastered it anything yet, obviously, but one of the things I'm struggling with is like we're still setting up publisher relations. So right now we buy everything through a wholesaler, which is convenient because then we can get everything in one spot. But the margin isn't as good.
Yeah.
So like ideally we'd be shifting away from the wholesaler and moving towards publisher direct. But one thing that we don't get with the wholesaler is we don't get like a heads up on what books are going to be book club like famous book club picks. So like I have this one customer and she always comes in and she's lovely, but she always asks me for like what's the Good Morning America pick that's coming out like next week. And I'm like, I don't know. And that kind of stuff keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
So like trying to figure out, how to like, basically how to be what the bookstore that people expect you to be, like how to do the things that like people expect you to be when like I'm flying blind here. Like, I don't know what I'm
Figuring
doing.
it out.
Yeah. And like, everything is just, I've never had a business before. I don't know how to run a business. I'm learning how to run a business, everything about running a business, like the financial side, the like organizational side. At some point we want to, like do like a full hiring thing. Like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Like, just like every like aspect about it is everything is new.
I think that humility, when shared with customers, will help you retain those customers.
Yeah.
Because people want to see you succeed, especially if you're in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
But people are going to help you do that if they can.
Right.
Right? When you hear someone's story and like they're doing this out of the genuineness of their heart, right? They're doing this as a goal, as something to accomplish.
Yeah.
There's this clother on Wells. It's called Ford General. And I don't know how he made money before, but he clearly made some money before. He's same age as me. And he's like, I wanted to start this because I want to show my sons so like actually build something.
Yeah.
Like something real.
Yeah.
A clothing store, right? And he brings in these clothes you would never find anywhere else. I mean, maybe in a different continent or something, but like you're not going to find them in Chicago.
Right.
So he has these relationships, built them up, and it's a really cool place. And his story is good, right? Like,
Yeah.
I spent way too much money in there.
Right.
But I like helping him. I like helping the store because I want to see that store succeed.
Yeah.
I want to see it keep going. And I think the people in this neighborhood are going to have the same thoughts.
Yeah. And we've definitely gotten a lot of that feedback too. Like, people will come in and be like, I really want you to succeed. Like, we love this. The neighborhood needed this. A lot of
I agree.
We hear all the time.
I think because the closest bookstore I can think of is pretty far east from here. And it's the one with like all the books tumbling on the windows and everything. Like,
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't even look like you've been walking.
That one just closed.
Did it?
So the owner passed away,
Okay.
and there was no passing down of the store to anybody. So it closed down. But near there is On a Bridge bookstore, which is that. So our neighbors, like our closest neighbors, are On a Bridge bookstore, which is in East Lakeview, which is not.
That's a different neighborhood.
Yeah, it's not close to here. And then Roscoe Books, which is in Roscoe
That's a different
Village,
neighborhood too.
also a different neighborhood.
That's
but
what's
we were
so cool.
looking at a map because we were like, this is the retail spot. And then we were like, okay, well, let's look at, a map and see where all the other bookstores are. And so we saw this, like right around us, there's this huge dead zone of bookstores. At the time that we were looking, Amazon Books was still around.
There's such a thing.
Yeah. So there was up on Southport, the vacant lot.
I remember that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that was around, and
I
we
would
were
never
like,
walk into an Amazon Books.
so we were like,
No one wanted to
people
walk in the book
people don't wanna
Barnes and
shop
Nobles.
there.
Why would
Right.
they? It's the same thing with a different name.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we were like, we're going to take them on anyways. We're going to take on Amazon. Month after we had like connected with this place, and we were like, yeah, our intent is to sign a lease with you guys. Amazon Books was closed. And we were like, well, we were going to do it anyways, but we're glad that they're down.
That's perfect.
We don't have to.
You said something about scaling earlier, and I always think about it in my business. I'll talk to people in tech, and they're like, "How are you going to scale?" I'm like, "I don't want to scale.
Right.
Like there's this obsession today with scaling things and becoming bigger.
Mhm.
The reality is the bigger you get, the less details are paid attention to.
Right. Yes.
And in my business, basically it's someone getting paid high on the top, and then he wants to make his largest margin as possible. So he's paying people as low as possible.
Right.
And that's the true service and customer service that you're getting.
Right.
And it's easy to order something from Amazon. We all do it. I know you have an Amazon account, right? If I need a new toilet brush, I'm like, bam, bam, done. It's here tomorrow.
Yeah.
For a book, there's something fun about walking into a store and picking them up.
Yeah.
And even for me, you're going to hate this, but I'm more of a Kindle person.
Okay.
I hate to say, because I like to look up the words automatically.
Yeah.
And I like to highlight.
Uh-huh.
I still like buying books though.
Yeah.
And I don't like the paperback because I don't like the way they look on the shelf.
Uh-huh.
I want the firm hardcover real book.
I think there's a lot of reasons that people buy books. And sometimes it's like kind of what you're alluding to, which is like more of a collection type thing.
Yes.
So like, yeah, you're reading them, but you're also collecting them because you want to keep these things. Like they're like keepsakes or pass them on.
It's fun to give people books.
Yes, it is.
There's a joy in handing someone a book and
Yes.
be like, I think you'll like this.
Yes.
And whenever I can think of any time that's happened to me. Right? Because it was a memorable moment.
Right.
And you're like, you're giving me a book?
Yeah.
Like, why me?
And it's not something you can do with other types of media. Like you can't not anymore. You can't hand somebody a movie.
Yes.
You could. You used to be able to, but you can't hand somebody a movie anymore.
Hey, you're right. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Because you trust your friends' recommendations.
Right.
On movies, I'm very skeptical. When someone says, are you going to like this? I'm very skeptical. Because personal taste is personal taste.
Yeah.
With books, I feel like it's a little different because you can get a better feeling for it. There's no trailer for the book.
Right.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm on Goodreads and I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, what do you think? We have this very democratic process for our book club. It's not a lot of guys, but it's a few guys. And it's like things get voted to the top, right?
Nice.
It's basically upvoted to where it goes.
Yep.
Do you guys do any book clubs like that?
We do. So we have a book club. Well, we have a book club at the store. It's not a democratic process like you said.
It's like we're reading this month and show up.
Yeah, it's like
That's
we're reading
nice
this month, and it's thematic. So it's like this month is mental health awareness month. So like the book that we chose is like mental health adjacent. And we just kind of like host a book club. So first month we did a Toni Morrison related book. And that was in the store. So we had Toni Morrison is a famous Black author.
Okay.
She's she's just a prolific author in general. But we hosted it in the store. So we had like small groups, cause we had like 30 people show up.
In your first month?
In the first book club. Yeah. And then last month we read Dark Matter, which is right up there.
I've read that book.
Yeah, have you?
For my book club.
Oh, nice. It's a good one.
I read Hail Mary too.
Those are both great. I love them. Those are two of my
Hail
favorites. You didn't like Hail Mary? No, I loved Hail Mary. But we did.
And my wife's reading Seven Husbands right there, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Jordan read that. She loved it.
Okay.
But Dark Matter, the first scene in Dark Matter takes place. Basically, the first scene in Dark Matter takes place at the Village Tap, which is a bar that actually exists in Roscoe Village.
Yep.
So we hosted book club at Village Tap in Roscoe Village,
that's cool.
which was super fun. We even so Blake Crouch, the author, is here for they're filming a show based on the book.
Oh, no way.
And so we emailed him and we were just like, we saw his email on the website. It was like, I read all my emails. I don't necessarily respond to all of them, but I read all of them. And we were like, let's just shoot him a message and see if he wants to come to book club. He was non-committal on it. He ended up not showing up. He said that they film on Saturdays and Sundays. They film on Sundays. So it was like he was busy filming, but it was still cool because he responded to us and we were like, oh, I guess this is kind of what you get when you get a bookstore. Like you're going to have author engagement in some, to some.
It's cool that he responded.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So that was neat.
My favorite scene in that book is when he's on, I think it's like the Uber chat. And he's in all the different versions of himself.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the funniest scene.
Yeah.
By far. I was laughing at it a lot.
Yeah.
In this space, you have all these different sections.
Mm-hmm.
How do you determine the sections? I mean, there's obvious things like sci-fi, nonfiction, but do you have things that go beyond those bounds? Like something that's more specific and particular?
So we do, I'd say, so we have kind of like the general, we have a curated version of what a bookstore generally has available. So like I feel like in a bookstore, you walk into like a Barnes and Noble or something, you know that Barnes and Noble is going to have like a general fiction section, sci-fi, thriller, mystery thriller. You know, they'll have all the genres separate. Romance, they'll probably have a romance section. All of those. We have not anywhere near Barnes and Noble's capacity for books. So we've kind of combined sections. We have kind of like a general fiction section, which holds a whole bunch of genres within it. And then we have the sci-fi, fantasy, and mystery thriller, mostly because those are my two favorites, separated out. And then another thing that you'll see in like a large Barnes and Noble is like they'll have like social, for nonfiction specifically, they usually have like a ton of stuff. So like social sciences, I don't know what any of the other categories that you might find under like social justice, whatever other categories you might find under nonfiction. And then like also travel and other like arts and kind of like more niche stuff that people expect to find in a Barnes and Noble. Well, here we don't have as much space, so we cut down on the like sections that we're carrying. So it doesn't make sense for us to have a travel section.
Yeah.
People come in and ask for like, do you have a travel section? Do you have a travel book? But like we can't dedicate shelf space to like every country in the travel book for every country.
No.
Plus people are looking for like, I'm looking for like the specific version of that travel book. Like I want to see like,
I want the Frommer's guide.
exactly.
I don't want the other guy.
Right. Exactly. So like people want something specific anyway. So what we do for that is we just order books for people. So if they want something specific, we'll order it to the store and then they can come pick it up. And then kind of circling back to your original question, for the more specific categories, what we do is we basically have these rotating tables that you'll see around here. So right now in the front, we've got a Mother's Day table up by that front window.
Okay.
Maybe more like a bookcase, Mother's Day bookcase in the front table. Our table in the middle of the store right here is a mental health table. And then we have this disability table right here as well. So we have like specific tables dedicated to certain topics, and those tables rotate based on like what the monthly theme is. So
the idea of ordering the book in the bookstore and then coming to get it feels like it would really connect with someone after the last few years.
Yeah.
Because everyone's been so disconnected, and one of your reasons for doing this, just being able to walk in and have this part of a routine, like we'll pop in the store and see what's here.
Yeah.
That's what I would imagine really is going to draw crowds to your store. And the fact that you had 30 people for the book club in the first month, that seems very encouraging.
Yeah.
I can imagine your space being large enough where you're like, got to go to the Athenaeum over here and do it or something like that.
Yeah. And I think, hopefully at some point that's a problem that we have.
Yeah, it's a good problem.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have. I think there's something to being surrounded by books that you just don't get with like the online experience. No. Like it's lacking, and there's something lacking about it. Like you might
it could be osmosis for all we know.
Yeah.
Right. You're just like, it feels good. Like,
yeah.
I'm getting smarter. We're on all these words, all these letters.
And I think that there's something to that idea that people just like to be surrounded by. I think like in this day and age, obviously, like we don't have but if there was something equivalent for like movies, or people still go to the movie theater.
I love going to the movie theater.
Yeah, like
on Tuesdays it's like $6.
Yeah,
you can go to the Webster Theater over here. They have reclining seats. That's the best place.
Yeah, so, like there's something to that. Like there's an experience that you have at these places that just like isn't replicated when you sit on your couch at home and watch a movie, or like go online and shop for a book. Like it's just not the same.
One of my saddest parts of COVID was, until I had a son, I didn't have a car. Until it was office, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a car for 9 years.
Yeah.
And so part of my day was spending time in different places.
Yeah.
Community places.
Right.
And then I got my license in 2009. And then I had a car and I was learning this business. I had no mentors. and I would I would take business from anywhere, right?
Right.
But one thing I always did is I would always get lunch or dinner, whatever it was, in that neighborhood.
Nice.
And I got to know all these little spots throughout the city.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of friends that depend on me, and clients for that matter. They're like, we're thinking about this. Like, any idea? And like, I have them. I have them on recall.
Yeah.
Because I know the hole in the walls. I know the little places
the local places.
The local spots.
Yeah.
They're not publicized. They're not marketed.
Yeah.
You're not paying for the real estate when you go there. You're paying for the food.
Right.
And everyone talks about good the dining is in Chicago. There's no doubt there's great dining here.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think half the time you're paying for the seat you're sitting in, not the food on your plate.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think to have this local experience gives you that same thing. And I was very happy to see this here, because I'm like, this reminded me of a place I used to stop at when I was in between Ubers or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd pop into a place like this. Maybe I'd buy a book. Maybe I'd just sit and read for a little bit, and then I'd go on to my next appointment. But I'd kill 30 minutes here.
Right. Yeah. And that's definitely what we're looking to be too. Like, we're here to, like, people, there's a dentist's office, kids, like, right there. A lot of parents, like, drop their kid off there, have them go to their dentist appointment, and then come here and kill 30 minutes. It's exactly.
That's real smart.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of the thing that we're, here to, like, provide for people.
What have you done to connect with your neighbors, like the dentist office? Have you
That's a good question. I feel like it's all kind of happened organically.
Okay.
So we've kind of, a couple things I'll say on that. A lot of it for, like, the, like, local neighbors, it's just kind of been organic. We'll be like, hey, like, we love your place. We just opened a store down the street. So we know, we're local members too. So just kind of like that kind of thing. But one intentional piece of, like, neighborhood connection that I've done is, early on in this process, I walked into a lot of the bookstores in the city and just introduced myself and said, I'm trying to open a bookstore. And, like, I would love any information you can give to me about opening a bookstore.
How many people tried to talk you out of it?
None of them did.
Okay.
Yeah. They were all very happy with what they do, and they were all very proud of what they do.
Business owners can be a large swing of people.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think anybody ever really tried to talk us out of doing this idea. Well, my parents, maybe.
I bet.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit on the family side, but none of the, like, no business owners or anybody that we talk to has really, like, tried to talk us out of it. The pet store that's right up there on Lincoln, we're, like, pretty good friends with them at this point. Like, we buy our treats from there. They come here, buy their books from us. So, like, you kind of get that sort of, like,
reciprocity.
Yeah, exactly. And this, like, that's community. Like, it's like we're the small business owner community. So building that up is really rewarding.
Have you done any marketing?
We have not done any marketing. And I'd say the reason we haven't done any marketing is because of our location. So really, because this corner is so busy.
I mean, 1,000 cars pass since we've been sitting here.
So we kind of consider our rent, like, as a marketing expense.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was part of my decision to open that office.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like the car count is pretty high here.
Right. Yeah. And foot traffic too for us. Like I was saying, the brunch, like, that draws people in, and then they see there's a bookstore across the street, and then they spend, they come over here.
Yeah.
Like, people regularly go to brunch. And so if you regularly go to brunch and then go visit your bookstore afterwards, that's not a big leap.
And that's a good clientele for you to have, especially if it's that regular, because a lot of people visit the same places.
Yes.
Right. So, like, it's Sunday, let's go to S&G's.
Yeah.
How long have you lived in the neighborhood?
Also, like, 6 years.
Okay.
So we lived in Evanston our first year that we moved here. Right off the main street, Purple Line.
Purple Line?
Yeah.
So I used to
South
live.
Evanston.
I used to live at Harrison and Green Bay, which is basically Central and Green Bay, right across from the metro.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, we were close to there too.
What made you move from there? What brought you down?
So my wife was, she went to school at Northwestern for her graduate degree. So she's a speech language pathologist by training.
Okay.
So she went there for a grad program. We met at the University of Michigan, and then we moved to Evanston to go for her grad program. And then a year into the grad program, she was on rotation at places, so we didn't have to like live near school anymore.
Yep.
So that's when we moved down to the city, and we've been in this neighborhood since.
Nice.
Mhm.
My wife got her MBA at Ross,
Oh, nice.
University of Michigan.
Yeah, very familiar.
Ann Arbor is such an interesting place.
It is.
We drove up there. It's where I got this, actually. I bought this on the spot because
Oh,
it was
yeah.
super cold. There were all these posters on every pole
hmm
trying to sell you mushrooms. And I'm like, what is this about? So I Google it, and they decriminalized, I think they call it ethogens, or any plant that's like hallucinogen that comes from the ground.
Oh, funny.
So it includes mushrooms and dimethyltryptamine and all these different things that
Yeah.
they don't care about. And you can just get it delivered like it's a pizza to your door.
That's
Super
hilarious.
easy. Yeah. Really threw me off. I was like, Michigan? Here?
Yeah. Ann Arbor is a super liberal town.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't have my best friend went there, but I never went and visited him. I don't have much intel about Michigan. And so Ann Arbor itself is?
Yeah,
very
Ann Arbor
liberal?
is very liberal. Like,
Okay.
Very, very. So that is hilarious. And I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
also doesn't surprise me that much either.
Yeah. And then I looked into it. They're doing it in Oregon, and they're doing it in California, and,
Uh-huh.
and then Michigan. You
Yeah.
know, there's like all these places over
Right.
here, and then bam, over here.
And like the funny thing is, like outside of Ann Arbor, like that's definitely not true. Like the rest of Michigan is not like Ann Arbor is liberal.
That's my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. That wasn't the Michigan I was expecting.
Yeah.
What's the ultimate roadmap here? I mean, what do you see as your 5-year plan with this?
Getting through 5 years is the 5-year plan. But I think that like you mentioned this earlier, but like this idea of scaling and like how like society or there's just this like obsession with scaling.
Yeah.
And so everybody's like,
Micros.
and people are like, come in, they're like, oh, like if this does well, you're going to open another one. And I'm like, no, like that's not the point. Like the point is to open a neighborhood bookstore in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like if I was to do anything past that, I would be doing a disservice to like the whole purpose of opening this in the first place. If I open it in somebody else's neighborhood, that's not for me to do.
And I feel that there's the concept of a bookstore isn't antiquated, but there might be antiquated thoughts associated with it.
Yes.
I think everyone has this dusty idea of
Yeah.
what a bookstore is,
Uh-huh.
and it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
You know, just thinking about ordering the books, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like you need something, just have them order it here,
Right.
And support your local business.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much improvement and opportunities for Kaizen in this space that you can just continuously improve on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And especially as you get to know your clientele. Like I'm looking at all these books, but maybe you find out, okay, we're selling 60% of our books in these few categories.
Yeah.
Why don't we reduce this other category,
Mhm.
maximize here? And it's going to take you years to figure that out.
Yeah. It's actually it's going to take years, but it's also a very constant process
Yeah,
too.
I bet.
I found out very quickly that mystery thriller, while I love it, not as popular as I thought it was going to be.
It got pushed to the corner over there.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. So it was taking up these two shelves
Okay.
side by side. We returned half of our mystery thriller.
Really?
Yes, we returned half of it and expanded our nonfiction section because that was doing really well.
Mhm.
And it's like, so it's section by section and also author by author. Like there's a couple authors in the fiction section who are kind of like traditional romance authors, and romance is a genre that's kind of evolved a lot into, and now like the new age romance novels, they are all a very different,
Like 50 Shades of Grey or something?
like gone from, I feel like they're like evolved past 50 Shades of Grey
Okay.
to like a much more like
I would think that
almost
would
like
be the evolution.
rom-com-y
Oh, interesting.
like type thing. But like I feel like the old like school romance was like very like sexy, steamy,
Yes.
50 Shades of Grey-esque. And so I think that like originally we had a large section of like old school romance authors. Nobody touched them. Like nobody even went close to touching them. And so it was like, clearly we don't need these in the store. So we've kind of been doing this like return and adapt process. So we'll return a section of books and then like add more. We'll add more authors within the like new age romance if we replace the old age.
Is your wholesaler understanding when that process happens?
Yeah, so they have a whole returns program. So
Okay.
it's an expected part of the business. And the same with the publishers. Like as we set up these publisher relationships, we're doing them so they're returnable, so we can send back books if they don't sell, or if we, it's a guessing game. A lot of it, like we can't read every book before it comes out.
No.
We pretty much don't read
can't.
any books before they
I
come out.
mean, even 1% would be hard.
Right. So, and we like, there's new books that come out every single week.
Yeah.
So we're predicting ahead of time, like how popular these books are going to be. And we're doing it with like very limited sets of data. Like occasionally it's like, oh, we know this author and this author does really well in our neighborhood. So we can guess that her new book is going to do really well in the neighborhood. But it's still just like a guessing game. There's a new book, the bright pink one up there by Emily Henry,
Okay.
called Happy Place. I was like, all of her other books are paperback. It's the bright
see.
pink one on the top.
I was looking at these Strange Planet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All of her other books are paperback. And I was like, the paperback books do really well. This one's hardcover. I don't see her fans wanting, like I can see it like not doing that great because it's hardcover and people are just going to wait for the paperback to come out.
Is that, so why do you say that? Is it a price thing?
It is a price thing.
Okay.
It's a price thing. And I think it's tying back to the idea from earlier of like a collection idea, like for
paperbacks on the
yeah,
shelves.
exactly. Like
Got it.
people do these, like you collect an author, you collect books, like you want to collect them all the same way. And I do the same thing. I have this sci-fi fantasy collection by Martha Wells about this robot who breaks out of his like enslavement essentially. And I have the first one in paperback and the rest of them in hardcover. And I'm like, no, I need to get the first one. I know I read the paperback first, but I need the hardcover version of the first one.
Yeah.
So I think it's like the same. That's like the idea. But basically with this Happy Place, to wrap up the story, I massively underestimated demand. And we basically sold all 12 of our original copies in 2 days.
Okay.
And I was like, we need more copies as soon as possible. We need them before the weekend. So it was like a frantic scramble to get these books in store before the weekend.
Yeah.
Like on Wednesdays and Thursdays, as you can tell, it's like, it's not that busy on a Wednesday or Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
But the weekends are very busy. So having enough, books for that was, but yeah, it's a guessing game.
Is there software that helps you make those decisions in terms of we can see what's selling? We know this author does X, so we can prepare and order Y.
No, there's not. And I think
it's hard.
yes. Why do you think yes?
Idolize.
That doesn't do like an estimate. So basically
Is that organizing? Basically.
it's like
We
creating.
don't know what it does. We don't know it, but it does stuff.
So
Okay.
this thing that she's talking about is that it's this website that publishers can use to send you like lists of books that are coming out.
Okay.
So, and that would be kind of what you're talking about with like a software that supplies you with this information.
So that's telling you what's hot or what's going to be hot,
Yeah,
what's predicted.
but it's predicted by the publishers. So it's
which is
not
bias.
which is biased and also human. So
Yes.
it's not like a software that's telling you something. And not that
And I'd say-
not that that's better or anything, but like
There's a very software engineering. answer.
right, yeah.
I
But
tell
it's
you, I tell
it
you,
is.
well, it's the companies. They're going to push their own product.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And like they send, like I've looked at some of these lists that they send out, and I've looked back at these lists that they've sent out, and like they're pushing this one title, and we have 4 copies of this title, and we've sold one of them in like a month. It's like, okay, like they're pushing these things, but they don't necessarily reflect what our customers want and what our customers are going to buy. So it's like taking what they have, kind of adapting it to fit our store and what our store's customers want, and then kind of going from there. So it's almost like gut feelings are driving
That's
a
what I
lot
was
of it.
wondering. That's
Yeah.
really what I was wondering.
So it's like, and like that gut is developed over a period. Like I've been doing most of the ordering for the store for 6 months now. And so a lot of it is driven off of just like the trends that I see. And so kind of like using that to future predict.
Yeah. Having this exposure into this industry, do you have any side on the publishing side or any insight into the publishing side in terms of how books are marketed and how they're pushed to the top? Because every industry has, manipulation might be a strong word, but if someone wants it to happen, they can put a lot of money behind it to make it happen.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily reflect the quality or content of the publication or the work itself.
Yeah.
Right. Like sometimes you look at a piece of art and you're like, why is that great?
Right.
Why? Because it has a great gallery.
Yeah.
Like the gallery guy is pushing this and he thinks this guy's gonna be the next artist.
Yeah.
What do you see, or do you have any insight into that space?
I think the same concept exists. I don't have a good grasp on how it's impacting, or how to, maybe not how it's impacting, but how to read through that and
How to understand it?
yeah. And like see past the mask and like
That's what I'm
see
wondering.
what's underneath. Yeah. And I'm doing an okay job.
We're gonna talk in 6 months. We're gonna see.
Yeah.
We're gonna see if you have better insight into that.
Yeah.
Because every industry has its caveats, its particular things that make it run.
Yeah.
And I think you would notice things with specific publishers and
Right.
what types of books are promoted by that publisher.
Yeah.
How many publishers are there? It's pretty small.
There's a lot.
Right?
Well, there's 5 major ones,
Okay.
and then a ton of littler ones. So right now we're working with Ingram, which is our wholesaler, and we've started working with Penguin Random
Okay.
House, which is one of the 5 major
I
publishers.
feel like I see that a lot.
Yeah, you see it all the way. You see like you'd really
A lot
recognize
of
the like,
business
Penguin
books
classics.
come from those things.
Yeah,
Lots of books, period.
Yeah, lots of books, period. But yeah. But like the Penguins classics, you'll see it's like the white label with the black underline.
Okay.
It's always got the title on
On
there.
the binding.
On the front cover.
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah. If you saw one, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're
Okay.
talking about. Yeah. And a little penguin on it. So
That I know.
yeah. But yeah, trying to figure out. So I guess one of the things I'll say about the publishing industry is it's technologically very behind. And so one of the reasons why we've been able to transition to Penguin specifically is because they have the best, so far that we've seen, the best software interface for us to use. So they have an ordering. So Ingram their website looks like it's from the 90s, but it functions pretty well for ordering books. Penguin has a very similar, like you take a list of ISBNs, which is the book number, the barcode on the back of the book. And you take a list of that and you drop it in, and then you just like update the quantities and decide how much you want, remove or add or whatever. But it's very user friendly, very easy to use. I've started the process with Simon and Schuster, and they don't have anything equivalent. And so I'm working with a rep to try and figure out like, how do I order books from you? Like I have a list every week of the books that we've sold that are from Simon and Schuster that I need to replace. Do I send you that list? Like, can I, like, I'm already like, as a software engineer, I'm already like, this is too much human for this task. Like this should be like, I put this list and order it. There doesn't need to be, I don't need to send it to somebody who then enters it into.
There should be no intervention.
Right. There's no reason for like a person to be in.
Type it in, goes to a machine processes.
Right. And it should just be that straightforward, and it's not. So that kind of thing is the part where it's like, okay, the publishing industry is like very, very behind on like basic technological like needs. So
Being a software engineer, what do you think of ChatGPT?
I found it interesting, and I guess I found it interesting, and I haven't given it too much thought.
Okay.
And that
You're not
kind
using
of,
it?
No, I don't use it.
You could.
I've played with it, but I
Okay.
haven't used it. Like I don't use it in replacement for Google.
I was curious if there's any way you're using it in this business.
There is not. There are some kind of worrisome aspects of it, I feel like, which is like you can have ChatGPT write you
A book.
a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me 20,000 words.
Right.
And it'll do it.
Yes, it's neat that it can do that, but it's also like, okay, there's probably some like ramifications of like this just being publicly
Yes.
available to anybody.
Yes. And it's at this iteration where they felt it comfortable to release it to the public.
Mhm.
But where's it going from here?
Right.
Because, if this is the public one they put out,
Yeah.
I know they have higher ones. They already have 4 where you have to pay for it, I think, unless you got early access.
Yeah.
But still just going to go up and up
Right.
and up. And how different that's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where it's going to go. And I don't know if I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Yes. It makes me feel good to see, I can't think of a better way to put it, but just more analog businesses like this.
Mhm.
Real estate's an analog business.
Right.
Right? Like no matter what, it's brick and mortar. You
Yeah.
have to touch it. You should go and see it before
Yes.
you make your decisions.
Right.
And every element matters. I mean,
Yeah.
the manufacturer of these windows to the manufacturer of this tile to the type of countertops these are to who
Yeah.
made the cabinets, everything adds to the value and to the longevity of what you're getting and to
Yes.
the quality and therefore your quality of life.
Right.
Because if you buy something that's shoddy, you're going to have to deal with it.
Right. And potentially replace it.
That's right.
It's an expense right there.
Yes. And everyone's been saying for years, like realtors will get replaced because of this and this. There's lots of logical arguments.
Yeah. Right.
But at the end of the day, people like someone to hold their hand.
Yeah.
And someone wants to know that there's a professional behind them saying, this is a good idea. You
Right.
should do that.
Somebody who like more than like a Redfin, for
Yeah.
example, like can not walk into the space and say like, yes, these countertops are good, or
Yes.
this floor is,
Well, even like
flat.
Redfin is a funny model because it's a very scaled business
Uh-huh.
where the agent who's showing you the property from Redfin,
Mhm.
after he leaves you, he's probably delivering someone burrito.
Ah,
And so it's like a gig worker environment. They get paid to just do that showing,
gotcha.
and they're not there to actually provide any value.
Yeah.
But because they put you over the threshold of the property,
Uh-huh.
if you decide to buy it, they get the commission.
Gotcha.
Right. So they're like, well, how important is the agent really?
Right.
Well, it depends on the marketplace.
Yeah.
Right.
hmm
There's a lot of different condo buildings here. They have a lot of different specifics to them.
Yeah.
Homes can be built with lots of different materials.
Yep.
You want someone who's competent in that space to know.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're in this business of books to help someone along that journey.
Yes.
And help curate that process for them. How many people come in here and they're like, this is what I want? Or how many people come in here and like, this is what I'm looking for?
If I had to guess, I'd say like 10 to 20% people come in and ask straight up, just like walk up and are like, I need help. Like, give me a recommendation.
Okay.
A lot of people come in. So one kind of, that's a service that we provide, obviously, of like helping people find a book.
I
Like,
think that is your whole service.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
if someone wants it,
yes. If somebody
you
wants
have to
it.
be available for it.
Right.
That's where value would lie in for me, for instance. Like
So-
when I was a kid, I used to love to go to the library.
Yeah.
You ask the librarian
Yeah.
like this, and they take you on this little journey.
Right. So I think that is definitely, there's a lot of value in that. I definitely agree with you there. But the other value that's provided is just the ability to browse and touch and like
Read.
enjoy.
Yeah. Grab binder.
Read back covers like by just like walking around the store and picking them up. Like that's not something that you get shopping online, for example.
No. And even that, it's like, I go to read a review of a book and I'm like, oh, here's 50 people reviews.
Right.
And I always laugh when people pick restaurants based on reviews.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're reading the bad review. I'm like, frankly, that's some basic girl who had like one bad experience and that's what you're going to judge it on.
Mhm.
Or it's the opposite of that. You're like, who leaves reviews? Like there's a certain type of person
Right.
who leaves reviews. And typically it's only if there was a negative experience.
Right.
And there's such a small populace of people that do it when it's positive.
Right.
So-
I wanted to circle back on something you said
Yeah.
because you asked me about ChatGPT and if we're using anything.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have been able to leverage is my like background as a software engineer.
Yeah.
So one of the decisions that we made early on was which point of sale system are we going to use? And there's like a smattering of point of sale systems for bookstores specifically.
Interesting. That's
Which is
that's so niche.
Weird, very
Yes.
niche. Yeah, I agree. And there were probably like 5 of those choices. And so we did our research to figure out like which ones we wanted to use or which ones were obvious. And one that a lot of these bookstores were using was called Book Manager, and it was everybody like had like rave reviews about it. And we're like, okay, we'll take into account everything everybody's saying. But it was like really, really expensive
Okay.
to have. Like the monthly cost was like very, very expensive.
Oh, we were talking about reviews.
Oh, we were talking about reviews.
Yeah.
Yes. And having a background as a software engineer, one of the shortcomings with Square, which is the point of sale system that we use, and it's also like really popular in retail spaces,
Yeah.
you see it everywhere, is their inventory management system is very manual.
Okay.
You have to like enter every detail you want by hand if you want to do it. But as a software engineer, I have this ability to create things to fill in those kinds of gaps.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm pretty sure I can just code something that will create these items automatically, so we don't have to manually enter for like every book. We don't have to like enter all the details.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's exactly what I did. And it makes our lives so much easier and so much faster. And I know that other bookstores use Square, and I just can't, like, without this like additional benefit of like having this like upload be so easy and seamless. I just like struggle to see how they have time to like enter all the books that they get by hand.
And you're wondering what system they're using,
what are they
if at all.
Right. Yeah. Or are they doing it?
And they could be outsourcing.
They could be. Yeah. Right.
Do you know when Square came out? You know how the thing you pop in?
Mm-hmm. We have those. Yeah.
So it doesn't work very well, or does it now?
It still swipes like crap.
So it swipes 15% of the time.
Right.
And that was when it came out.
Yeah.
They knew that. They didn't care. They were like, no one else can offer this kind of product.
Right. Yeah.
And then we just tell everyone, type it in.
Right.
Try. But 15% of the time it's gone.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what caught it on, or that's what helped catch on using that product, right? And especially because you see it.
Right.
And I think that's what they wanted. They wanted that thing that you popped on top, and someone's like, what do you got there?
Yeah.
Some other business owner's like, what?
Yeah.
Supposedly that came about because he was trying to buy art at
Oh, really?
like some place.
Funny.
And the guy just couldn't accept credit card. He was like, this is blowing my mind.
Yeah. Like, well, I'm not carrying around $600 in cash to buy this painting.
Yeah. Have you used any other code or any of your background to make this job easier for you?
I have, yeah. So now that I've written a couple apps, just kind of like little, nothing fancy, just like type this in and it runs this code and then it spits out this.
What's it do for you? How's it making your life easier?
So in addition to automatically creating items for us, it'll create purchase orders for us. So when we place an order with we place a wholesale order or whatever, we create this purchase order, which allows us to keep track of how much it cost us to buy an item, which is really important for us for tracking our unit costs, exactly, but basically tracking how much our inventory costs us.
Okay.
And then in addition to how much it sells for. So keeping that information in mind. So I have one app that creates purchase orders for us. And then I have another one that splits inventory that we need to order by publisher or wholesaler.
Okay.
So that one's been the other one that's come into a lot of handy recently. Now that we're starting to order from Penguin, I needed to split up which books are we going to order from Ingram and which books are we going to order from Penguin.
Got it. Because you're only getting what's from Penguin. You don't want to double order anything.
Yes. And I want to get the best deal. So
Yes.
I want to make sure that I'm ordering books from Penguin when I can order from Penguin.
Is the software determining what's the best deal?
Well, the best deal is always from the publisher.
Yeah,
So it's
okay.
there's no question about it. But the software is just determining where it comes from, essentially. So we do pay for this. It was the first question that I asked was like, well, where am I going to get my data about books? Like I need to reference some database or something that has all the information about books. And it turns out that Ingram also offers this software connection for me to pull book information about. So
is it another SaaS product, or is it something that in addition?
it's not. I guess it is kind of a SaaS product, so it is in addition to just purchasing wholesale. We pay monthly for this subscription service, So yeah, it's SaaS, but it's a subscription service that allows us to just like programmatically reach into their database and like pull information above based on ISBN or whatever. So that's what allows me to say like, okay, I have this ISBN. Let me go get the publisher. Okay, the publisher is Penguin Random House, or there's a million different like Penguin Random House like imprints they call them.
Okay.
Which are
It's like a subsidiary
yeah,
owned by Penguin.
they're owned by Penguin or fulfilled by Penguin, but they have a completely different name. And so like just like collecting that giant list of like here's all of the ones that Penguin consists of, and yeah, it was a little annoying. But
It's in the weeds.
yeah, it is. Yeah. So yeah, I was like in it. I was like, I've written better code.
When I think of a bookstore, it's one of the things that stood out to me when I passed by here. I think of a place where you can buy old and new books, as in like used books.
Right.
And I really like going into cities, and I almost always go to a bookstore if I have like time to kill.
Yeah.
I look for a bookstore and I try to walk out with something. Right? But a lot of times it's older copies of something or a secondhand. Is that something you guys ever thought about?
We have thought about it. It is currently very challenging for us to get used books into our system.
I just from a logistics and real estate standpoint, I feel like it'd be difficult too.
Yeah.
Plus, okay, like I don't know how it works. Like if you're buying it from someone who walks in, if you're buying it online,
Right.
then that just sits on the shelf and your money's out in the meanwhile.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, and
books aren't appreciating in value.
Right. Yeah. So we've had a lot of people, and the other thing is you can't return a used copy of a book too. So like once you have it, you're stuck with it until it sells. But we have had like customers come in and offer for us to just like to give us used books. And so we've tried to accept them, but then we run into this like issue of like, how do we keep track of it? How do we give it a different barcode?
Yeah.
And like because it already has a barcode on the back.
System. Yeah.
But, like you need something to signify that it's different than the one. If you just scan the back barcode, it's just going to pop up as the new book. So how do you like signify that it's a used version of it? And we just haven't figured out how to do it. It's probably worthwhile at some point for us to do it, but it's just not on our it's just not on our like priority list right now. So
and when I think of those places, they don't look like this.
yeah,
It looks more like a place that closed down up the way.
right.
Maybe that's telling in
yeah,
itself.
yeah, could be. Yeah, I think used books is it's just a different game.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just trying to do both is doable, but it's almost like running two very
Get
different
this stuff
businesses.
first. Then you can tackle that and
Right.
put it up next door.
Yeah.
Make one of these front stores.
Yeah.
What's the name?
What's the naming? So we knew we wanted it to reflect local, like the fact that it was a local neighborhood bookstore. And so we were kind of spitballing names. Brown Line Books came up, but then we decided that we were too far from the Brown Line to call it Brown Line Books. So we ended up with 3 Avenues Bookshop because it's the corner of Southport, Wellington, Lincoln Avenues. And then we did all the logo design and everything ourselves, which was a lot of fun.
Those lions?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Nice thought. I was like, I get it. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But it was kind of fun to like come up with something, and we wanted it to be like kind of very classy and timeless. And we didn't want it to be like, you've seen logos where you're like, that's kind of ugly.
Who did this?
Yeah. Right.
Or like, wow, like that's a lot going on.
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted it to be like simple, classy, timeless, look good on white, black, or full color too. So
Are there any more community involvement ideas that you have in terms of integrating into the neighborhood?
yeah, so we've done, so we do our book club. I'd say events are really like the next step forward for us. So we have our book club, which is a great little event that we put on. And then this other thing that we started doing is we have these tiny bookstore concerts. So I think it was 2 months ago, we did our first tiny bookstore concert, and we had this jazz trio come in and play for 2 hours from 4 to 6 on Sunday.
That's cool.
And people just came in and they shopped and they listened to live music, and it was a crazy, fantastic event for us. So it was like awesome. Tons of community members came and checked it out. And so we're doing that again this month. So it's kind of like doing those kind of little things that we're looking for. I think the one thing that we are a little bit lacking in is like author events. So we have like local authors that we've been in contact with, but we haven't done too much to like do a reading or do sort of like author presentation and event. And so I think like as we grow, we'll expand in that area.
Are there a lot of authors in Chicago?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a hotbed for authors. Yeah.
I wonder why.
I think it's just population. Like
Just enough people.
there's just like, there's some percentage of authors in the United States, and Chicago has a huge population. So like that percentage, if it holds here.
Who are some of the authors?
I think Clint Smith is one of them. So he's a poetry author. He's local. Who else do we have that's local? 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗣𝗣𝗥𝗑𝗗𝗚. She just came out with a new book called I Have Some Questions Here. That one's been hugely popular for us.
What's that one about?
I'm not actually sure.
That's okay. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. It's kind of, we can hopefully edit this out, but with the popular books, I tend to not like bother like figuring out
Because they're going to sell themselves.
because they're going to sell themselves.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So like I do a little more for like that tier that's underneath it. Like I know more about those.
Well, I feel like that'd be the hardest part of having this place is like, you can't
Oh,
read
he's not
every,
from Chicago?
you can't read every book.
Yeah, you can. Right.
No, like it's
And, like,
impossible.
There's a yeah, I heard you.
Correct yourself.
Oh, Clint Smith is not from Chicago. He's from Maryland.
Okay.
We've had a lot more like smaller authors, I'd say, that come out. And so like she's from Wisconsin.
No, she lives here around the corner.
Okay. So we had a local author who wrote a Badger State memoir.
Okay.
But it's called Badger State because she grew up in Wisconsin. And then we had like they reach out to us. It's really how it tends to happen. So we have like a lot of smaller press kind of stuff. And what was I saying before that? There was something else that we were talking about.
We're talking about the local authors, about reading the books.
Oh,
About
yes, about how much. So you were saying like there's just so much. Like how do you read all that? And there's a limited amount of space that you can retain information about. So like even if I've like read the back of a book to figure out like what it's about, if I do that like 3 more times, then like that first one get kicked out.
Yeah.
So,
The cache is only so big.
Exactly. So yeah, like if I've read them, like I know what they were about, but even that like memory starts to get hazy after.
It would be an unreasonable
Months.
expectation for anyone to expect you to remember those things.
Right.
I don't even remember the properties that I look at with clients.
Yeah.
In terms of if I walk through it, I have this burned in mental image and I can always recall it.
Right.
That's just like a weird trait I have.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going out with someone, we're looking at 5 to 10 properties. I don't know any of them.
Right.
Adam set it up. We might have talked about them, but like remembering the square footage of the 5th property we see on what I look at so many places a week. What benefit would that ever have?
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's all here.
Right.
Remember, you're paying for the experience
Yeah.
and like the 20 years of doing this and the recall of that. That's what this is really all about.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not about remembering the address of the properties we're viewing today
Right, yeah.
that are already in the calendar in your phone.
Yeah. Or like you have like the sheet that you get when you walk in the door. Like you don't need to I don't need to memorize those statistics. I can just look at them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
We have probably our email. So for like short questions, calling our phone number, it's on Google.
That's a great thing to hear.
Yeah.
No one's ever like, call us.
Yeah. Just call us. Yeah. We'll answer the phone. We always answer the phone. Emailing is a good way too, but we definitely take longer to get back on that. The inbox is always like, it's like 100 emails a day.
Terrible.
So
Doesn't matter what business you have. It's like as soon as you register an email, spam the death.
And we get like every publisher has at least one email that goes out a day. So, and there's 100 publishers. So like we're getting 100 emails a day just from publishers alone. But yeah, the best way to contact us is probably calling us on the phone. Very good old fashioned.
Anything you want to say before we finish?
I don't think so. I really appreciate the video.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
If you want to watch another My Chicago podcast, click here. If you want to see exceptional Chicago properties, click here. Thanks for watching.